Blog Talk Radio.
Alternative facts.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. At 12:07 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, numerous unidentified objects of unknown intent and unknown origin were detected at high altitudes over multiple locations of Earth's outer space by the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and these objects are presumed to be some form of controlled aircraft. It is not known if more of these aircraft will arrive, or if they will attempt entering Earth's atmosphere. United States citizens are encouraged to monitor local media outlets, as more updates will follow as information becomes available. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. Attacks by the undead have been reported in several states across the country. The dead are rising from their graves and are attacking the human race. At this time, it is expected that more attacks of this nature will occur in several other states in the next few hours. The intent behind their attack is unknown at this time. He has been observed that a bite or exchange of fluids is a method of transmission. This is an extremely dangerous situation if they crave the taste of human flesh. It is not known whether this event will last for hours, days, or even longer. Stay calm, as authorities have been dispatched to deal with these creatures. An all-clear siren will be sounded when this situation is under control. Pacific Standard Time, nor is detected a long-range nuclear missile launcher. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of all residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
Welcome to Within the Chaos with your host,
Rodney Shortridge,
and co-host,
Robin Dalton.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. You can listen in by going to blogtalkradio.com/withinthechaos, or listen in by phone. You can dial 323-870-4197. And you can also call in to ask questions to our guests at the same number, 323-870-4197. From deep within the heart of the Appalachians, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for listening to Within the Chaos. My name is Rodney Shortridge, and I'll be your host tonight, along with my fiery redhead co-host, Robin Dalton.
Hey, y'all.
Tonight, our special guest is Byron Lacy. Byron is a writer, artist, and he is studying psychology, metaphysics, and he's also a researcher of alien abductions. I'd like to give a big old country shout out to my cousins up in Ohio if they're listening, Jennifer and Joe Shortridge of 222 Paranormal, If you get a chance, check out their show. You can find them on Facebook under 222 Paranormal. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to my new friend, Moonshiner Lance Walter, from the hit TV show Moonshiners. He's invited us down for a meet and greet on March 17th, located in his hometown of Robinsonville, North Carolina. So everyone, make plans, come on down and see them good old boys and us, and have a good time. So, Robin, how was your week?
Well, my week was wonderful when it was warm. Now I'm freezing my ass off, and I'm not too happy about it.
Carol, cover that thing up. Jesus Christ, don't be running around the house.
I always cover my ass, okay?
Hey, there have been times that ass has been exposed.
Well, not always on purpose, just because you've seen it a time or two.
I think I've seen your ass more than I've seen most women's asses are running around.
Hey, that goes both ways. I've seen yours quite a bit too there, mister.
That's because I ain't got no ass. I ain't got no ass to hold my damn pants, shorts, anything I got. I just put clothes on. They just fall off. I don't know why I'm a fat boy. You'd think they'd stay on.
But we need to give a big shout out tonight. Today is Doodlebug's big 8th birthday. Woohoo!
Ooh,
So happy birthday, baby girl. We love you.
Yes, we do. Little boogers. Little boogers running around everywhere. Good Lord. I got half pint tonight, and she's in there in the bed, so she wanted to stay up. She wanted to stay up, and I told her, I said, honey, you got school tomorrow. But, well, enough of me bullshitting. Let's go ahead and get our guest on. Let me go ahead. I see that he's already called. It's my honor to welcome our special guest, Byron Lacy. Hello, Byron, and thank you for joining us tonight, bud. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Great.
I'm a little tired. It's been a long day.
Yes, it has.
Well, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, sir, and what got you into so many different fields of study and work? You're a little busy.
Yes, I've done quite a few different things. Well, I'm 66 years old, and I've been an alien abductee since I was 5 years old, but I wasn't positive about it until 2009. In fact, I was in denial about it completely. I just didn't believe it was happening. I thought there were plenty of weird stuff that happened in my life, but I thought it was God or guardian angels or something. I didn't know for sure. And in 1955, they came into my room at night 3 different times in a row. And the first time, my mom had put me in bed, and she had left, and I turned around to go to sleep, and I looked down there, these 3 little guys standing at the foot of my bed on the side, and they're about 4 foot tall. I thought they looked pretty strange, and I yelled for my mom, and when she came in there, they were gone 3 nights in a row. And on the 3rd night, after she left the room, they were back. And there was also this guy that was about 7 feet tall, this being that looked a lot like Captain Hook, but I think he was a mantis creature now. That's what I believe it was. And I suddenly felt like I was tied to my bed, and my bed started rotating in the center of the room, and the room got bigger, and the little guys were going around with the bed like they were hooked to it or something. I was just about to really freak out because of not being able to move when it all disappeared. Oh, but I forgot to mention something. Before my mom left the 3rd time, she sat down on the edge of the bed and she said, "Son, now don't you call me in here anymore. You're going to have to learn to deal with them for yourself, because when I come in here, they're not going to be here." So anyway, that's the way that evening ended. And I've remembered it all my life, but I didn't really know what it was because I just didn't know about aliens in 1955. They weren't all over television and everything else. They were on some, but not a whole bunch in my house.
Mm-hmm. Well, oh, go ahead, Robin.
Right, go ahead, Rod. It's okay.
Well, what I was going to ask is, so where you've been abducted and you help other abductees, so how did you get into, I mean, I know because of your experiences, I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you started researching this, but what specifically, led you down that road to start researching these events that are happening to you and other people?
Well, in 2009, I had a friend who researched UFOs and stuff on the computer, and he had done it in books. And he'd tell me a little bit of stuff all along for about 5 or 6 years, but I just really hadn't taken it seriously or cared. And in 2009, I was sitting in my car in front of Walmart in the town that I live in, and first a disc appeared at the end of the stoplight. It was about the size of a dinner plate, and it looked like it was made out of water or something like that, and it expanded to from 6 to 8 feet across. And I'm looking at it, and I can't believe what I'm looking at. Now, I close my eyes and open them. It's still there. I move my head, and I open my eyes, and it's still where it was before. I look around, and nobody in the cars around me seemed to notice it at all. And then it exploded into the air without any sound, but before it hit the ground, it was gone. And it looked like the Stargate in the movie with Kurt Russell called Stargate. And I told my friend about it, and he didn't say anything. Now, he knew about almost everything that had ever happened to me. So a week later, at this same spot and almost exactly the same time, the same thing happens again. So this time I don't call him. The next day I see him and I tell him what happened. And then he didn't say anything. So before I left, I just had to know what his opinion was. I was sort of worried because he always had something to say. And he said, "Man, I think you're abducted by aliens." And I told him he was crazy. Well, he gave me a paper with an address on it, a web address, to go look up some things. There were several on there. And for several days I avoided it, and he kept trying to get me to do it, and I wouldn't do it. Then finally I looked at these, and most of them had like 90 questions that if you answered a great deal of them right, you were most likely an alien abductee. Well, I got like 98% of them right. Wow. And then I began to realize the things that had happened began to make sense all of a sudden. And I started on just sort of an outline of things that had happened that recently. And then I began to look at everything that had ever happened to me, like what happened when I was 5 years old. That was the most obvious. And another time when I had met a being in a dream, and my wife had had the same dream as I had, but just different things. I took everything out of my life that was weird and put it into this outline. And then that started growing into a book because I wanted to know the dates, know exactly when it happened or as close to it as possible. So I ended up with this book, and it was like an aha moment when I saw it. And I mean, I figured out things I hadn't really realized before. And then I joined a few. I had help from a man named Daryl Sims, who is the alien hunter, and he's on TV and different things from time to time. He has a support group, and I joined that support group, and that was a big help. And I thought maybe, other people have had strange experiences, but there weren't enough books out there about it. They're getting to be more and more. So I thought it would be helpful if people could see that someone is going through the same stuff they're going through or through similar things. So I wrote the book, and then to sell the book, you got to talk about it, and you got to tell people what you're doing and what it's about.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Chronicles of an Alien Abductee. Is that the
Yes,
book
ma'am.
you're talking about? Your book, Chosen?
Yes, ma'am. Chosen: Chronicles of an Alien Abductee.
Okay.
Well, I know you messaged me over the weekend that you had another occurrence. Can you explain that to everybody and what happened that you can remember? Because I know that what I've read, that a lot of abductees have trouble remembering what really happened or just bits and pieces of what happened.
Right. Well, it happened Friday, and it was, I can't even describe how fucking weird it was. But I was working on my house. It was 7:30 in the morning, and I had gotten up very early because it was supposed to rain Sunday, though it didn't. And I just put these 3 columns up on the house, and they're 10 feet tall and 8.5 inches square, and I didn't want them to be messed up by the water before I got them painted. So I got out here, and I had 2 smaller posts, and I got out here by 7:30. I painted the small post. That didn't take but 15 or 20 minutes. Then I had a little caulking to do, and so I hauled the ladder over to the far end to the right side, the last post, because it had a few places that needed it more than anywhere else, and it's the one that would get wet the most. Well, I needed to put some caulk at the very top at the front, and I couldn't see, and I was too lazy to move the ladder to in front of it because I had to put it on an old bathtub. Anyway, I got up there and I reached around and I caulked it, and I thought it was pretty good, but I wanted to get down and look at it. So just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. So I got down, I come around to in front of it, and I look up, and sure enough, it looks just fine. And then this voice in my head says, "Look up." So I look up just past the eave of the house, and there's the damn spaceship. The sky is like as dark blue as the sky can get, and there were some cirrus clouds, but they were scattered around. This was right out there, right out in the open, and it was about 1,000 to 1,500 feet off the ground. Now, I drove around afterwards. I'm going to jump ahead. I drove around afterwards, and I looked at things, and I found out that I could look and that I could see details on houses and trucks from almost 0.3 of a mile away. And 0.2 of a mile away, I could see them perfect, and then closer, of course. But after 0.3 of a mile, they were just blurry things. Well, I could see all this detail on this thing, and it was white, and it was long, and I would say, compared to the houses I looked at from that distance, it was 100 to 150 feet long, and it had one area about 2/3 of the way down that got smaller for just a little bit, and then it was smaller, and then it went back to the other size for the rest of it, and it was drifting. And it looked like a photograph out of National Geographic or out of or off of a NASA book. I mean, it was that perfectly clear because it was so bright white. And the sun was not impeded at all. And I reached down for my phone because I've been very careful to bring it out with me every day. It wasn't in my pocket. I looked around. It wasn't where I usually lay it. So I look at the thing again, just because I know it's going to be gone. And I even say that to myself. But when I first looked at it, I thought, this is what's funny. I've seen one ship this big in 1961. I've seen 3 or 4 ships in all. I've seen them 3 times. I mean, I know it's real, but when I looked at that, it was like, wow. It was like it was knowing it was real for the first time. And I thought, but at first I thought, am I looking at the space station? And I go, no, I'd be crashing, not just floating there. And then I thought, am I looking at the Hubble telescope? And I went, no. And I said, it doesn't have any wings. And I realized it was deadly quiet. And I have tinnitus. I have 3 tones in my right ear and 2 tones in my left ear, and they're there almost constantly. It was totally gone. There was no sound, and I was looking at the thing and go, God, it doesn't have any kind of engine like we have. Oh, it's a spaceship. And then I got totally elated, which was, really happy, and I got sped up. And about an hour later, I just needed to go someplace, so I was going to ride to town, and like driving 55 miles an hour was torture. And then even 75 miles an hour wasn't fast enough, but I didn't speed because I didn't want a ticket. And that lasted almost all day. Then the next day I was down a little bit, just going the opposite direction and balancing out. Now, I look at it because I went in the house and got the camera, and I come out there, and he's gone. And there's no place for him to be in the sky, no place. I had noticed when I was looking at him that there were these. It was the way heat looks rising up off of the highway, except it was sort of swirling around just right up above him, and it wasn't as big as the ship, but I think that it was a portal, and he probably went through that portal, or of course, people have seen him shoot off tremendous speed. Well, I get out there with my phone, and I go, well, what the hell? I decide to take pictures of the area, and it's 9:45. It should be 8:30 or 9 at the latest from the amount of work I had done. It was 9:45. So there are 45 minutes at least that are not accounted for, that are gone. And later in the day, I found 2 bruises on my left thigh that had not been there before, and I found a subdural hematoma on my right inner elbow where doctors take blood.
Mm.
Well, I decided, now that is everything that I remember completely about it.
Mm.
And I've drawn a picture of it, except I realized, too, the end of it is actually flat, and I make it look curved. Well, when I was looking at the pictures of the Hubble telescope, at certain angles, it looks like the end is curved because what you're seeing is the curve of the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I forgot what I was going to say, if anything.
Well, is there a parallel between, the experiences that you have when this happens and with the other abductees during these abductions? Are y'all kind of doing the same thing, or I don't know? What's the coincidence? I mean, what's I don't know really how to really ask that question right without sounding like a dumbass myself.
No. Similarities. Well, now there is later that day when I calmed down a little bit because it had happened so recently, just hours before, I decided to try and go under self-hypnosis and find out if I could remember at least how that missing time got there or what happened. And that's what I asked. What happened and when did the missing time happen? 45 minutes is gone. And then, instantly I got this mental image of me coming down off the ladder, standing on the ground, looking up, and seeing the spaceship. And then I'm inside of the spaceship. And and then I go blank. I don't know how I got in. I go blank too. But I have this feeling that I asked this person, this being, to let me remember, and he said he'd do the best he could. Well, then I'm on the ground looking up at the post, And I don't remember any of that stuff happening. I don't remember any time passing. Let's say 45 minutes pass, and I don't know it. I think it's only been a minute. And a voice in my head says, look up. And I look up, and there's the spaceship that I think I'm seeing for the first time. Did I explain that well?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, what is commonly going on when you and these other abductees are being abducted? What's the common thing? Are you all being probed, or being blood drawn, or some kind of physical exam or mental exam that you all know or can remember?
Was a year, if even that often. It's not very often, thank God. And but bruises, lots of us have bruises all over us, and puncture marks. Especially, there will be like 3 to 5 puncture marks 2 millimeters apart in a perfect row somewhere on your body, like on your arm or on your leg. Now, I've had up to 21 punctures on my wrist at one time, 3 rows of 7. And then I had a pattern that looks sort of like a double triangle. And a lot of us end up with triangles on us somewhere, too, for a little while. Women have the worst part because they do use the women in the hybrid program. And I really don't know much about that except what I've read, of course. So, but it can be terrifying for people, but it hasn't been that I know of for me.
I'd be terrified.
Yeah, no shit.
I think the not remembering would terrify me more than anything.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what happened. And why do you have bruises?
Yeah, no kidding. That's some rough ass abductions.
I woke up one morning, the year that I found out what was going on. I'll stop in 1 second. And I found a puncture in the palm of my left hand, I believe it was, and it looked like somebody had stabbed me with a pencil, and it was completely healed and gone in 6 hours.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, so what type of UFOs have you experienced, and what type of contact, have you and the other abductees made with these aliens?
Well, I have seen it looked like the moon on fire. I have seen, and there was a woman with me that saw it too. We were driving in a car, and we didn't say anything to each other, but we both saw this and passed under it. And you can't pass under the moon. And suddenly we both looked at each other at the same time and said, "Did you see that?" And we stopped the car and turned around and went back, and it was completely gone. I've seen an egg, or an egg shape, floating about a mile away across the tops of the trees, and my wife was in the car with me. I was married at that time. That was in the 70s, and she couldn't see it. And in 1961, I saw it was a long cylindrical shaped craft like this one I saw Friday, except it looked more like a submarine which had been turned upside down, and the deck of the USS Missouri from World War II attached to it, but there were no guns. What would have been guns on the battleship were just rooms on this spaceship. And it was 1961. I was in music class, and we had a substitute teacher, and she decided to take us outside. None of us had ever seen her before. We didn't know her. She was a pretty woman in her 20s. Well, she took us out, and she stood under this huge oak tree while we stood in the driveway beside the school in the gravel, and we started doing side straddle hops. And suddenly, this ship comes over, the nose of it comes slowly, without a sound, over that oak tree, and we all just stop and sort of drop our mouths open. And then she says, "Okay, that's nothing. Let's get back to work." And it was gone. And so we do about 2 more side straddle hops and the bell rings. So we hadn't been out there a full hour, but somehow an hour had passed. We were probably all in that ship.
Wow. Well, I know you said when you were about 5, seeing the little men and then the 7-foot man creature at your bed. Now, is this still? Have you seen the actual aliens? Even more through your lifetime? Are they like different types? I mean, what are other people reporting about the same thing? What you've seen? I mean, what all have you been told that they look like?
Most people see the grays, and then they see a creature that's like the grays but taller. In 1955, I saw the 3 grays and the disguised mantis. In 2009, I saw the grays again and a mantis again. In 1976, I saw these 3 little guys that were really short, and they were almost shaped like bell jars, or little bulldogs, or caricatures of a bulldog as a sergeant in World War II, like they paint on airplanes and stuff. Anyway, they looked real strange, and they looked very similar to little men that were in the movie about Wesley Strieber's book, Communion. And then I've seen these beings, in 2015 that live in a different dimension. They come to this dimension. In fact, the FBI, one of their documents was released that talks about them. They come to this dimension and can become solid when they're here. Their stuff can become solid here, but basically they look a lot like light, like they're made out of light, somehow shaped into shapes.
Huh. Now, are these aliens, are they able to communicate with y'all? And have they communicated? I mean, and if they have, how have they? Like, is it like telepathy or verbal?
It's of them talking. It's always telepathy. They don't have to talk. And I've had communications with them, and I've had them talk directly into my brain and tell me something like, one told me to take a different road home. When I said no, I said, "You're going to have a car wreck." And I said, "Well, I'll be really careful, and I appreciate it, but I'm going to see what happens." I almost had a car wreck. I almost had a car. This guy jerked in front of me, pulled in front of me, and slammed on his brakes, and he was in a big old U.S. Whatever those are called, sports utility vehicle, SUV. He was in a big SUV, and he tried to get me to run into him 2 different times, and then I took a side road. If I had been warned, I would have had the accident.
Damn. So, have you or any of the other abductees, gone through any type of physical or mental examinations, after these events have happened? And if so, what is the doctors or psychiatrists and so forth? What are their conclusions about this?
I've never talked to a psychologist about this. I have talked to a psychologist. I had hypoglycemia in '83 that lasted almost a year and didn't realize what it was. I thought I was just going crazy because it affects your brain, and actually what it is post-traumatic stress disorder. But when we finished and I found out what was wrong with me, he said, "You're perfectly fine. You don't need me anymore. And you may expect to be a little bit more unhappy than most people, because most people lie to themselves about reality and you don't."
Wow.
So he gave me a good ticket of health, bill of health.
Well, I know you said that, that you have done self-hypnosis before to try to remember the event. Have you talked to other abductees that have went through hypnosis to try to help them? I mean, to create memories? I mean, lost memories. Have they shared those with you?
I've heard some, yes. Most everything they tell me is in complete confidence, and I can't repeat it, but they have, other people have done that, and I've been hypnotized by a hypnotist 2 different times as well, and come up with some memories during both of those occasions.
Yeah. So what was those memories? Anything that you've already discussed, or something different than what you've already discussed?
One of them was the school siding, and in the memory in 1961 of that big ship, I remember walking down this hallway, and the first door we come to looks like a bulkhead of a ship, and it's like I think I'm still in a ship, and then the next one is just an opening, and the ship stuff is just all gone, and I'm in this very sterile metal thing, very clean lines, and the rest of the kids were there, and I remember them all having us all sit at desks, and they showed us something, but I don't know what it was. And then we were, and all of the kids were sort of like zombies in a way, but I was a little bit more alert than them.
Well,
and there've been one or two people. There's been one person that told me she remembered seeing that ship that was in school with me.
Well, has anyone witnessed or came forward to say that they saw these events happening to you and the other abductees during these events?
No, nobody has ever mentioned seeing them, except for the woman that said she saw the ship in 1961.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
They were really slippery and careful.
No kidding.
So how has all of this affected you and and others, with your family lives and friends and all? I mean, just every aspect. I mean, how does it affect you every day? Has it affected you a lot?
Yeah, I hate to travel. I don't like traveling. I do it, and it doesn't bother me. And once I do it, I like it. It's great. But I have this buildup of fear against it. And, of course, the worst was before anyone knew. Before I wrote the book, no one knew I was an abductee, only a handful of people. And you just didn't tell anyone. In 2009, you didn't say, hey, I'm an abductee. They go, you're crazy. Because nobody wanted to believe it or accept it at all. And it's gotten better and better and better. And now, like, I tell strangers, and they don't. They find it. Some find it fascinating.
Wow.
Well, have you or any of the other abductees experienced, any changes within yourself, such as like unknown knowledge or lost knowledge of mankind, and also have you all experienced any new abilities that you all didn't have before?
Yes. For one thing, we get a feeling of oneness. You get this growing feeling of oneness with the whole universe. And lately, I've even starting feeling time as a non-linear thing. And it's very faint, but I feel time almost as if it's all happening at once. The way they talk about it in quantum physics, you become much more empathic. And I can feel other people's happiness or anguish and sadness, but you also get this, some do, I've worked to develop an objectivity to where, because at first you'll feel people's feelings and you'll think they're your own, and you'll wonder why am I so upset or something like that, and it's not you, it's the person you're with. It's almost a burden in some ways.
Yeah, that would suck.
Of course, sometimes it can be really good.
But I have a hard enough time dealing with my own crazy emotions. I
yes, I know. And then you become like a swinging door for everybody's psyche.
Yeah, I don't know if I could handle that. So I know you said that sometimes it seems as though maybe blood has been taken from you during these events. As far as you know, has anything else ever been taken out of you, like an organ or any other body fluid?
I really don't know. Well, I found a mark on my private parts that looked like over one of my testes, and it looked like a suction cup mark with an arrow a puncture in the center of it, although it was not, it was healed fairly well, but it was still the remnants of it there. And I think that they took sperm from me. I had cancer as a child. I had a sarcoma when I was 2.5, and they took out part of my bladder and my prostate, so I can't have children. And I had even thought at them, I hope I've had alien children, at least. I hope I've been a part of that at least one time. And then like 2 days later, I find this mark, and I go, wow, I got to be careful what I ask for. But, so, yeah. Now, but they haven't removed anything else that I know of except blood. Oh, and little chunks of skin. 2 of them on my leg, one of them in the top of my mouth just recently. I don't know. It sort of scares me to even figure out how they got in there to do that.
Do they hurt?
This is what's weird too. It did not hurt at all. I found it when I ate a pickle at a restaurant. It sent this little spider vein of weird feeling across the top of my mouth, and I'm going, that's really weird. And I started feeling up in there with my tongue, and I noticed there was part of the skin missing, about the size of the end of a pencil eraser.
Wow.
About the same size as the 2 on my leg.
Yeah. Well, do you know, or the other abductees know where these aliens are coming from, and how long have they been coming, here to Earth?
Well, people believe they've been coming here for thousands of years, and they're pictures of spacecraft in some of the hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt. There's one that looks like a helicopter in ancient Egypt. Other societies have had pictures of UFOs and of aliens. I think there's some alien-looking creatures in the early Egyptian stuff, and before that. And people think they were here before Sumeria. There could be anywhere from 13 to 25 or 30 different kinds. A lot of people even believe that Bigfoot is actually an alien, and that's why he can so easily disappear. But there's Zeta Reticulon is where they think the Greys came from. And Sirius, the dog star, has a group of people. There are several different kinds. Nordics, I don't know where they come from, but they're tall, white, and they look like they're from one of the Nordic countries. And they're the most human-looking that I have heard of. And then there's the Greys, the insectoids. There are several different kinds of insectoids. The ones I've seen look like praying mantis, standing up, about 7 feet tall, usually wearing a robe. And a robe always denotes a high rank in what I understand about the alien world. If they're wearing a robe, then they're in charge. And then there are the short grays, and then there are grays that are more medium and more slender, a lot like the ones, and the tall ones are a lot like the group of people in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the end, where they step out of the ship before they take those pilots away or whatever it is. So, and E.T., is based on, supposedly, on a case where a ship crashed and one of the grays was left behind, or the ship was stalled here and left this little gray here. Now, they changed the way he looked, because E.T. doesn't really look like a gray at all, but they are supposed to be sort of simple creatures just made to do a job.
Huh.
Well, do you have any idea why they're abducting other people? I mean, is there a certain type of people that they're abducting, or they're just random?
Researchers believe that they are abducting every 1 in 4 people is abducted at least once in their lifetime. So then there are others, like I'm 3rd or 4th generation abductee. Although my parents didn't talk about it, there were things they said to let me know. And then Marla Freese, a psychic medium who was a technical advisor on the television show Medium a few years ago, she told me that I was 4th generation through my father, who has passed. He talked to me through her, and everything he knew, he was the only one that would know it. So there are some people can be taken once. Some people are taken once a year. Some people are taken once every 4 months. I'm hit once or twice a month, almost every month. And one time they did it 7 times in 1 month. I really felt bad most of that month. Because, for one thing, when you're with them, you could be with them a long period of time with no food, and your blood sugar level will drop. Or it could be that they're doing stuff to you and it's scaring you and your blood sugar level drops. Or you just feel bad. Or they either give you something or take something away from you that makes you feel bad. Not real bad. And I've found amino acids and things to take after some of these encounters that make me feel okay.
Wow.
Sometimes it's apparently not pleasant. Since we don't remember it, I don't know what mine are like for sure. The ones that I remember were fine.
Right. Well, since you do have such a hard time remembering it, what kind of hard evidence or physical evidence has been left behind besides the bruising and stuff? Has there been anything else left behind, to show proof that they've been here?
No. But my marks are just like everybody else's that's been abducted. My stories are similar, the same kind of stories that other people have had. Now, some people saw an event where I was in a car, and that car was, but I haven't talked to any of them. But a bunch of people were on this road in this little town. I was going to my parents' house at Thanksgiving in '85, and I realized I was about to be plowed into by this big truck, pickup, big, huge kind of pickup car from the right side, and I tried to throw my wheels in the left towards the left and throw on the brakes. Well, the car, it stopped from 45 miles an hour to 0 instantly without slowing down. And I was not thrown, I should have been thrown through the windshield or at the least into the steering wheel. No. And then the car slid to the left over into the oncoming lane, And this woman in the car that I ended up in front of, she had seen it happening and stopped. Well, my car was 1 foot from the front of her car. And the pickup, the kid that was in the pickup, he stopped when he saw he was going to hit me. He was stopping. But if my car hadn't slid to the side, he would have been in my car with his pickup. He backed all the way across the street, all the way across this parking lot, and rolled to a stop when he hit the curb. And the woman in front of me in her car, her mouth was hanging open. And somehow they make you just not question it, not look into it, not talk about it even. I backed my car up, thought I was really lucky to not have been hit in that car accident, and drove on to Seagoville.
Well, I know that the UFO community is they can be a little fickle. And I was just wondering, how do they feel about your experience and the experiences of these other abductees? What are their opinions about it?
Well, I've gotten good response from people that are in the UFO community and those that aren't. People now, there's beginning to be so much about it on TV, on all the internet news channels, on radio shows like yours. There are a lot of them that all they do is focus on the paranormal, and some that only focus on UFOs. And there are several television shows about UFOs that are out now and that have been on. There's even a couple of comedies now, People of Earth, which is taken from some real experiences, but of course modified greatly. But still, it's very accurate, except the aliens are not funny. In real life, aliens are not funny. They do have a sense of humor, but it's really dry, and it's us that are the brunt of it, not them. So that's the one thing that's different about us in the show. But in that show, they show you the problems of the abductees and that they're human, and that to them it's real, because it is real. But I mean, they could have just made fun of them. I didn't know what to expect from this show, and I love it. I was very, very pleased with it.
Wow.
Well, could this, what you all have been through, could it be something else? Could y'all be deceived in some way, what you're experiencing, other than an abduction?
If the government has figured out how to project a ray into someone's brain and make them have a completely real experience, or gone to the money to do this to thousands and thousands of people, I suppose so. But I don't think so, no. Especially from the 3 times that I've been in their presence.
Right. I know you mentioned the several different types of aliens you've seen. I know you mentioned there was, a lot of different types. But what about some hybrids? I noticed, a little while ago you were talking about hybrids. Could you tell us your opinion on them and tell everybody exactly what you're talking about when you say hybrid?
Hybrids are supposed to be a genetic mix of human and alien, and human and the grays, the Zeta Reticulans. There could be hybrids of any kind. Some people think that there's hybrids between the reptilians and humans, but there are a lot that believe that the reptilians are shapeshifters and can look like humans. So some people believe that that the grays are us in the future. They time travel back here. Now, I don't know. This could be true. I just know that when I've seen them, they look pretty solid, and they look now. But like I said, they could be from the future. but that they went through a nuclear war or something, and they ended up getting where they could not reproduce. So the way they reproduce is to get genetic material basically from us and mix it with theirs, and then they can produce some grays that look like grays on up to some that look like fair-skinned, usually blonde-haired individuals with intensely blue eyes that are human. They might be fragile-looking, but not real bad. If they look normal, if they can pass as a normal human being, they might live here all of their lives. They're usually extremely intelligent. Some of them are psychic, from what I've heard.
Do you think they know that they're hybrids?
Probably. If they're psychic, they know.
Wow.
Well, I've read a lot about where a lot of abductees have implants, some type of either metal or some type of plastic or something that's putting out some type of signal or some type of magnetic field. Have you dealt with any of the abductees that you work with that have had these implants, and have they tried to have them removed, or do they have any idea what their purpose is and how it affects them?
Well, I have an implant in my brain or in my upper sinus cavity, and it produces tones through my left and my right ear, 3 in my right ear, 2 in my left. And I found this CD once a few years ago. It was either in 2009 or 2010 that was for curing tinnitus, and it put out a series of frequencies that was supposed to cure tinnitus. Well, I used that CD. You were supposed to use it once a week. I used it every day. I used it for about an hour or more every day. And in 5 days, I woke up and I could hear nothing except the clock. No sound in my head. I was very excited. I had killed the tinnitus. I had cured it or killed whatever was causing it. And all day long, I didn't hear any noise from inside of myself, in my ears. And I was sitting watching TV, and I was watching some television show that I liked. I was about halfway through it, and then I'm sitting on my sofa, and the room shifts just about 6 inches over to the side. Everything around me goes, doesn't make a sound. It's just different. And it's moved over 6 inches. And my head feels like someone, it's like screaming in pain, and it feels like someone has pumped my head full of air, my sinuses full of compressed air. And there's a burning going up either my right or my left nostril up into my head. I mean, a strong burning, like somebody had shoved something up in there. And then it all just calmed back down and stopped. The hurting was gone. I could breathe better than I'd been able to breathe all of my life, and that lasted for 3 days. But my tinnitus, it was screaming loud, louder than it had ever been before in both ears, all 5 tones. And the TV show was different. It was a wrong TV show. It was the next TV show. It was a TV show I would not have even watched, much less watched it through 15 minutes. I had the missing time of about 30 minutes. And when they put me back, or when they quit doing what they were doing, because they may have done it right in the living room, and I have memories of like three beings, just sort of three grays, just sort of appearing in my living room over in front of these French doors. But that's all I have. And so when they put me back, they didn't put me back, or I wasn't in exactly the same position. But because I don't remember any of the missing time, each side of it is jammed together in my mind like there's nothing missing. That's why the room moved. Actually, it was me that was moved. I was moved where I was looking 6 inches over to the right, whereas only a second before in my ability to perceive, so it seemed like the room moved.
Wow. Well, like you're saying, you had the perception of being moved and the room moving. Have you or anyone else, like, woken up in an entirely different location with knowing how you or they got there?
I have awakened in a different, like sleeping across my bed and with no covers on in the cold of winter, like I was just thrown down on my bed. And there are 3 doors to my room, and I always sleep with my feet to the middle door. One is to the porch and one is to the closet. It's like they brought me in from the porch and threw me down on the bed and didn't know I was supposed to be sleeping the other position.
Wow.
I've awakened crawling into my bed. I awoke once on my bed, and I go, wow, something's really wrong, because I think I'm laying on my back. Well, I can see the little red light that's always on my stereo, and I'm upside down. At that point, I fall over onto my side because I just got disoriented. Luckily, I was on the bed. Well, I turned on this night light, and my pillows were up there, and I was asleep with one pillow over my head, and the pillows had not moved. It was like I had, slid out of the pillows and out of the bed.
Wow.
And
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, honey.
The morning I found the puncture in my hand, I went back to my bedroom to see if there was a trail of blood, because I figured if I had punctured my hand out of bed and then gotten into bed, because that night I had unloaded my closet to arrange it, and it was on both sides of my bed, the contents. So the only way I could get in my bed was to crawl in from the foot. There wasn't a bit of blood on the sheets, but under the pillow, on the underside of the pillow where my hand would be, there was a spotch of blood about the size of a postage stamp. And on the other side, if I had turned over where my hand would be resting against the sheets underneath my pillow, there was also about a similar sized splotch of my blood. So I had been punctured in the bed and had not gotten up until it had quit bleeding, which was in the morning, apparently. I got up, didn't know anything was wrong, went to the refrigerator and pulled out a soft drink because I was very thirsty, and I changed hands with it. When I did, I noticed there was blood all over it, about the size of 2 postage stamps. And then I looked at the palm of my hand, and I saw that it had blood on it. That's where the blood on the can had come from. So I washed it off, my hand and the can, and that's when I found the puncture in my hand.
Oh. Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
No, I didn't either.
So have any of the abductees that you know, have they made any substantial amount of money with their stories?
No. You don't you don't make much money with the stories.
I was going to say,
all.
do you think if anyone out there did, do you think that would put doubt in the public's opinion?
Well, Travis Walton has made money with his book and his movie, and Whitley Strieber has made money with his book and with his movie. So, it can happen, but it depends on the story. If the story is believable, people are going to believe it. If it's not believable, people are not going to believe it.
Right.
So far, all of the books that I've read about abductees, and I've read about 5, they all sound extremely sincere, and they all sound like they've actually been through the experiences.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think the world governments know about these abductions? And if they do you think they're doing anything about it, or just letting them do whatever?
Well, I'm sure they know. Ronald Reagan, he was this is documented. He talked about it. He was in an airplane with his wife, and definitely the pilot, and he had the pilot chase a UFO for almost an hour before he went to a meeting in wherever he was going. They followed a UFO. The UFO went just where they could stay right behind it for a certain amount of time, about 30 minutes, and then it shot off like a rocket and was gone. He talked about that at the meeting. He started the Star Wars initiative. Those rockets on those satellites were meant to be aimed out into space. Why? And you had him, and you had the Russian, whatever they called him, the head of Russia. They were talking about how, the world would be united if they ended up having to face a threat from outer space.
Huh.
Well, I know.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Well, Hilliard, who is one of the prime minister types of Canada, Paul Hilliard, he has talked about many of the things he saw. He knows the United States had UFOs. I don't know if he said Canada had any or not, but they had technology from UFOs that they were working on.
Well, I used to drive a truck cross country from North Carolina to California, and I was taking a load one time down from Flagstaff, Arizona, down to Phoenix. It's about 3:00 in the morning. I see a big, bright red, fiery ball in the sky, just hauling ass. The next thing I know, there's 2 big-ass jets following it with their afterburners on, just trying to keep up with it.
Right.
I see that ball make a sharp turn, and those jets, when they bank to try to make that turn, it's like they went probably 2 damn states over before they even got turned to even come back even close to it. So, yeah. I mean, I've had my experience too with I ain't been abducted that I know of, but I've seen stuff when I was on the road that it'd make you go, now what the hell was that?
I can imagine.
But you never hear nothing about stuff like that on the radio. There's all kinds of truck drivers that I talk to. Like I said, when I was on the road, they talk about this stuff, but you never hear nothing on the news about it.
Truck drivers, EMT, police, the military, almost anybody that's out at night, they've seen, especially if they're out at night constantly with their job, they see stuff. It's been caught in films, weird things caught in films outside of stores, all kinds of strange stuff out there.
Well, my next question, it kind of goes into with the Roswell crash in New Mexico in 1947. It says that, the technology here in America has increased, like 1,000-fold. Do you believe that this is there's evidence to support that after the crash that the United States government maybe reverse engineered any alien spit it out. Alien technology.
Yes.
Okay. And also, with our advancement of our weaponry and so forth, I guess, the reason I'm asking is it seems to me that, we've surpassed, all these other nations around the world within a short period of time. Is it because of that type of technology where we reversed engineered, or was it because of the German scientists that we captured after World War II? And even then, with the German scientists, were they able to move so quickly in the advancements of the technology to try to win the war?
Von Braun, a man got to ask him, just happened to be right alone with him for a brief moment, and he said, "How did y'all come up with the spaceships? How did y'all do this?" And von Braun looked at him and said, "Aliens," and then walked on.
Huh.
So, and there's plenty of talk about the Germans. Betty Hill and Barney Hill, the ship they saw in the 50s or 40s, whatever it was, the ship they saw, they said that in one of the windows there was a Nazi soldier standing there, an officer behind that window. There have been other people that have seen Nazis with them. I never have, but so it's a combination of all of those things. Probably the most important thing they gave us would be the transistor, maybe the microchip, Velcro, who knows, the microwaves. I think definitely we got a lot of that or hints at it from them.
Well, that kind of goes into Area 51. I mean, do you think that the government's, hiding aliens there?
I think they have. I don't know if they're still alive, but, who knows? They might be. They might be in glass jars, but yes, I think they've had them there for sure. I think there's a lot of truth in that movie 4th of July, except in the way they portray. I think it's a mix of War of the Worlds and reality. And that our aliens probably didn't look like those. They were probably grays. But yes, I think they've been at 51.
I'm sorry, I cut it out. I'm here. I'm sitting here and I'm talking and I'm like, okay, is anybody hearing me? And then I looked up and I'm like, no, they ain't.
No, we weren't.
So, what do you think about Project Blue Book? What's your opinion about it?
I've never read it, but I've heard some about it. Doesn't it come to the conclusion that there aren't UFOs, even though throughout Blue Book it pretty much shows that there are?
Yep. Yep.
Which, that's a typical government thing.
Yeah.
What I think is funny about it, all these presidents, like Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, even Obama, I even think George Bush even mentioned it. They all said that they want to find out what's going on, and if there is evidence that we have, we're going to let the public know. Then next thing you know, never hear anything else about it.
It's because they can't. They won't let them. It's like there's a part of our government that isn't elected that never leaves, and it's in the CIA, and it's in the NSA, and it's in the Army, and it's in the Air Force. It's in all of these things. Shadow government.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
and they've said presidents have all these things they want to do. Then they get in the office and they find out what they can do. Two different things.
Right. Well, I know earlier we had talked about, how long people have cited UFOs and stuff like that. Do you think it's been about, the same amount of time that there's actually been abductions going on throughout the history of mankind? I mean, is there any evidence to show about, when the abductions actually had started?
No, not that I know of. There very well might be. I know that had one incident where my father told me that one of my relatives in the 1800s had died in a mental institution because she told people that little men came into her room and talked to her sometimes at night.
Wow.
And he told me not to talk about stuff.
Yeah, it's probably afraid they're going to take you away.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now here's the question I've always wondered. Is there a hierarchy within the aliens?
We believe so, and people that research it believe so. In fact, that like I had talked about robes, the beings that have on robes, they're like the officer. The grays are pretty much the lowest on the totem pole, and then there are aliens that we may have never seen that are in control of everything. Some people think that the aliens that are controlled never come to our planet.
I wonder why.
Maybe they can't. Some think they live in some kind of gigantic hive, that they're more psychically connected, that they feed off of or can use our emotions and our feelings like drugs, and our experiences, the feelings that our experiences generate, and they can take them psychically or just, experience them psychically.
Wow. So, where do you see full disclosure of any UFO activity from either NASA or the governments of the world?
Well, I was hoping it was going to be soon, but now I really don't know. France published a book like Blue Book, and in their conclusion of it, they said that the United States government had been in contact with aliens and had alien technology and would not share it with the rest of the world.
Yo, they wouldn't.
Wow.
And that was produced by the government.
Wow. Well, I know we kind of touched off on this a little bit, or you have quite more, a little bit, a few times. But what are your thoughts about, there's a show, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's Ancient Aliens. And what do you think about that? I know they kind of pushed the envelope about how aliens came and probably helped in the evolution of humans. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't doubt that at all. I mean, look what we're beginning to be able to do. They've made a part human, part pig. That's a hybrid, and we haven't been doing it for very long. And I don't like that kind of stuff, but they're not asking me about it. But they can do it on Earth, humans. So think about beings that have been doing it for thousands of years. What they can probably do. They can probably do anything. We're getting where we're going to be able to 3D print organs using protein and stuff, and print a heart. We can print little things that can think, sort of rudimentarily. It's really sort of bizarre. We're getting biologically advanced.
Yeah.
So it's not so far-fetched that they changed us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think we were used as slaves.
Yeah, I've read that, and we've had a couple of discussions about that. That they came here to apparently mine gold and seen humanoid type creatures. They're like, hey, let's just work on them and let them do all the hard work, because isn't in South Africa that they found these old mining caves that use like technology to mine that we don't even use or have today?
Right. And we still have this fascination with gold, and we have a big problem with having slaves in our societies. Just those themes, where did they come from? They could have easily come from us being engineered into being more able to work for them.
That makes sense. So,
And
go ahead.
we really don't have defenses like other animals. We don't have fur to defend us from the weather. It's like they manipulated us and actually made us dependent on our keepers.
Well, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
So, what books or other educational material would you suggest for people to do their own research on UFOs and abductions?
Well, there are tons of films about it on YouTube that you can watch for free, short ones, long ones. There are people like me. I've got 12 or more interviews, radio interviews, and one or two video on YouTube that different people have put up there. I don't know if y'all archive your show, but if you do, that's what I mean. And they're out there by quite a few people, and there are people who don't claim to be abductees but still research the phenomenon. And then there's some people who research the phenomenon and they don't tell you that they're an abductee, but they are. And then there are abductees that tell you, so you can find out from different points of view what all is going on. And plus now either the CIA or the FBI, I can't remember which, they released a lot of documents onto their page within the last few months that you can just, if you can dig through them, you can find stuff.
Well, what's your thoughts about the religious ramifications, if and when it comes public that we're not alone in the universe?
Well, we're not. They first thought we were the center of the universe, and that the sun revolved around us, and the church wanted to kill people that tried to refute that, and they need to embrace science and rationality. There's no reason that you can't have God and rationality at the same time.
That makes sense.
Because if there is a God creating things, he's not just magically making it appear, he's creating it through natural laws, physics. God has to do physics just like everybody else.
Well, do you think there's evidence that the governments of the world are preparing for some kind of major world cataclysmic event?
Going to happen or has happened?
Well, I would say both, because I know I spoke with Brian Forster, and a lot of the megalith stones and structures that he researches. He says that it predates the Great Flood. Now he's not saying. He says it's like what it's saying in the Bible. That flood, but his research shows that it was like some type of climate change event that happened within a couple of weeks or to a couple of months. And is it happening again with the melting of the polar caps? And the governments they're preparing, but they're not really acknowledging that it's really happening and keeping the public kind of at bay about it.
That's what it seems like, doesn't it? I was watching this show the other day about Nostradamus, and this man in either 2003 or 2008, he figured out that part of the codes in Nostradamus's quatrains, or whatever they're called, were dates. And he checked the date for the one that everybody talked about Kennedy dying, and it had that date in it. And he said that in about it's either 100 or 1,000, either way, everybody right now will be dead, that the earth will face, it'll be ripped asunder, the moon will be blasted, it's going to have the worst fatality. But he said that man will go on Mars. I thought, we're really trying to get to Mars right now. If we got there now, then 100 or 1,000 years from now, we'd be well established, and we would be able to continue living on Mars. And yes, I think the government has a pretty good idea of what's happening, but they're not telling us because they want everything to roll along just like it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. So, could you tell me what the difference between a UFO and a UAP is, if there is one?
UAP?
Yes.
I've actually never. What is that supposed to stand for?
That's what I'm asking.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
Because I've heard people use the term UAP instead of UFO. I was just guessing it's the same thing.
Let me see. Unidentified. I don't know what AP would be. I really don't know. I'd be lying.
Well, heck, let me just look it up real quick while you all talk.
Yeah, that'd be the way to do it.
Well, while he's looking that up, what types of scientific studies or tools do you use for your research, or do you just go by your own personal experiences?
I go by my experiences. I was an investigator for Child Protective Services for 3.5 years, and I investigated allegations of child abuse or mistreatment, and I learned how to look for details, ask questions, to write everything down, how to write it down where it was easily understood and you could present it to someone else as evidence. Because, we had to keep all this stuff and collect it and give it to the court if need be. Right. So I use those skills and basically my own experiences, which are the ones I know the most, because I decided to investigate myself because I had me right here.
All right.
And Daryl Sims, my friend, he helped me some at first in telling me if I was right about what I thought, and he would tell me a lot that what had happened was definitely authentic alien activity.
Well, I have an answer for the UAP. It's a unidentified aerial phenomenon.
I have heard that word. That's pretty good.
That's what I mean by that. Okay.
It's just a fancy way to say UFO.
Yeah, really a different way to say it.
It's just a lot harder to pronounce.
Yeah, really.
They shouldn't do that to people like me, okay? Look, people, keep it simple.
Don't mix the water, man. Don't mix the water. So, So, what's your thoughts on animal mutilations? Have you had any dealings with that? And do you have any opinions about why aliens would be doing that?
I have opinions. I ran into a man here in the town where I live in Nacogdoches who was he was a young guy in his 20s, but he had researched there's actually cow mutilations that go on in Nacogdoches, and they'll get 1 or 2 cows from different farms. Now I don't know about the last 3 or 4 years, but it's probably still going on. And they find them just, cut just like they are in all the stories about them. The lips, the udder, I think the genitals, all that stuff, eyes or whatever. But I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, that they use them they somehow incorporate them into like chambers, synthetic uteruses for growing their hybrids through part of the process. I don't know if that's true or not.
Now that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
So, speaking of interesting, what is the strangest case you've researched or investigated or that you've heard of? Something that's just the strangest thing you've heard of.
Uh-oh, he's thinking.
Yes, I'm trying to think which one. It's all so strange, believe me, because every time anything happens, you're just confronted with something that you don't even think exists, and there it is.
Well, we know that, don't we, Rod?
One woman, and this is not spooky strange, but one woman was in Colorado riding a horse on the side of a mountain trail, scenic, looking, and the next instant, the horse, it lost footing for a brief second, and then she was down at the bottom of the mountain, sitting on the horse, and both of them in perfectly normal condition.
Wow.
And one time, I used to sing country music, and I was at a bar singing with this guy who I would sing 3 songs when he played, and I was leaving the stage after I'd sang my song, and the stage was about 18 inches off of the ground, which was concrete, and I was about to move my foot out into the open to step off the stage when I realized that it was caught under the cable between the monitors, and I wasn't going to step off the stage. I was going to fall off head first onto the concrete, and I thought, damn, I am about to die. And I couldn't control my body, and my right foot pushed me up into the air. My left foot dropped down, and the cable fell off of it. And when it had thrust me up into the air, it also twisted so that I turned around backwards and landed in front of the stage. Only I didn't step backwards to catch myself. I had all this momentum going backwards off of the stage, and I landed like I was set down like a salt shaker or something, just set down perfectly solid and never moved. And I've tried that move here at home, and every time I have to put my foot back and take a step backwards to keep from falling over, the whole crowd, there was about 75, 80 people in there, the whole crowd was completely silent, just not a noise. And the singer goes, that was all rehearsed, ladies and gentlemen. And I looked in and I said, shit, I couldn't have done that if I had wanted to. And then I could move. When I landed, it was the weirdest thing. And I flew through a barbed wire fence. I was hit by a car when I was 11. And it was my teacher's husband that was driving the car. But I was coming home from school, and there was a kid in front of me and a kid behind me, and I was there, and I was on my bike, and there were kids walking, and this big, huge Plymouth brown two-tone starts coming straight at me, and there's no time to think. Then I'm rolling on the ground, head over heels, and every time my head comes up, the car bumper and the tire is like a foot from my face, and I go over. I can't move. I can't control my body. It was the same thing that happened in the bar. And then my body straightens out, and I fly between two strands of barbed wire in this barbed wire fence, and I land on the other side. And this policeman who is always there, he comes running, and all the kids, and I'm just fine. I've got a little bitty scratch 1 inch long on my arm where one of the barbs dipped into my arm, and that's it. In 2010, a guy got thrown out of his car in Nacogdoches and went through a barbed wire fence, and he was alive when he flew out of the car, but he looked like he'd been through a cheese grater.
Ooh, damn.
Holy cow. So do you think maybe where they use you so much, do you think maybe they've just protected you your whole life?
One time I was talking to him. I had one talking to him psychically for just a brief amount of time. I've talked to him several different times, but I said, look, and I try to ask him questions where it would trip him up, and they'd tell me something. So I thought, ask him why they saved your life. That'll tell you a ton. They'll have to tell you what they're doing. So I said, why did you save my life so many times? And he said, we wanted you alive. And then he left. He was gone.
Wow.
That didn't tell me anything at all. I knew you wanted me alive. Shit.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. That's what I'm fishing for, okay?
Yes.
Well, I know that you're also you study psychology and metaphysics. Do these fields of study help you in your research of the abductees?
Yes, they help me to understand people and the way people react. See, at one point in time, I thought I might be insane. And I started going to a counselor, and I started studying psychology to learn what was wrong. And it turned out it was hypoglycemia. But in the process of studying psychology, I got to know myself a lot better. And hypoglycemia causes brain anemia because all your brain eats is blood sugar. And it's the last organ in the body to get the blood sugar. So if it's been, used up or even just removed from the system, the brain, you can imagine how the brain runs without fuel. It's pretty complicated. That would be like trying to run a regular car on water. It doesn't happen. So I know how people feel more. Just understand people, and it helps. With a person, first off, you have to listen to them. Nobody listens to people very much. They're too busy talking.
Yep.
And if you listen, people really like that. They go, God, they actually heard what I said.
I think most people are going to tune me out. I'm sure Rodney has in his 8.5 years.
You see the same damn thing over and over.
Because
you know that people do that. People say the same thing over and over, and they don't remember that they said it before.
Exactly.
I've had friends go to this restaurant. I have some friends there, and they'll start telling me the story, and they'll be real enthused. And I'll break in and tell them the whole story, and they're shocked because I know what the story is. They don't realize that they've told me before. I don't do that very often because it disappoints them, but we do. I catch myself doing it, saying something to somebody that I said a week ago, 2 days ago.
Well, see, I'm a bad diabetic, and I was diagnosed back in 2003, 4, and a lot of people don't understand that it must have fried my brain because I talked to the doctors about it, and there's a lot of time. There's like 3 years I don't remember once I got really bad sick, and even now I have trouble remembering things that either I said or done. You know, people come up to me and be like, 15 years ago, you was a son of a bitch, and you said this to my woman or my man. I'll be like, well, sorry, I don't remember it. They think I'm lying.
I understand completely.
Well,
yeah, diabetes and hypoglycemia both really mess with your brain abilities.
It sure does.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, you also create sculptures and paintings that are exhibited in galleries and museums. Can you tell us about your artwork?
Well, I've been working since 1971. I started art in college. I'd never done art before, and by the time I graduated from getting a degree in English, I switched over and went to graduate school in art, and I majored in graphic art. But when I got out of college, I couldn't afford a printing press, so I started doing paintings and sculpture, and I've been doing paintings and sculptures ever since. Right now, my art mostly focuses on, I like to do a nice-looking landscape and put a UFO in it. And the UFO is just sitting there. It's not so it's like a French Impressionist painting with a UFO in it, or Van Gogh with a UFO in it, something like that. Although I don't really do Van Gogh, but I like it where a person would look at the painting and they would see a beautiful landscape, even though it may be very modern. They would see this beautiful landscape, and then they'd suddenly they'd be there sitting there enjoying it, and then realize there's a UFO in it. So I thought it was a way to get them to see the UFOs, and plus that's what happens. They're there in the air sometime in your life. Maybe they have been for me.
Yeah.
And then I've started doing electronic music. And I've been designing pictures for the album cover, and then for each song, I do a picture for each song when I publish it. They're on Amazon. They're all synthesizer music, and they're influenced by some sounds. They're influenced by trap music, trance music, meditation CDs, and also music that the aliens made me hear while I was listening to a meditation CD. I started hearing music that wasn't on the CD. It was something else. And so I started making this music just recently. And most of my art right now goes to help support the presentation of my music.
Okay.
And
here's
to help support the art.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, everybody. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Now, I was just going to say, since your artwork can be purchased, apparently, could you give out the information for any listeners that'd be interested in checking it out and purchasing it?
It's not really for sale anywhere right now, and I can be reached. They can look at almost all of my art is on my Facebook page, and if you Google my name, you're going to run across 2 or 3 different websites that have my art. One of them that actually has some for sale. I don't remember what it's called right now. I really haven't been paying much attention to it lately. So, and I haven't been receiving any emails about it. But
well,
and my Facebook page has a lot of my art on it too.
Boy, I've just died to ask this question. I just keep jumping in on everybody, don't I?
Go ahead.
This is a fun question I like to ask everybody, all my guests. And I know what you have been going through would be kind of considered paranormal. You know, something you can't really explain. But have you had any type of paranormal experiences, such as hauntings or spirits or so forth, and anything doing with cryptozoology or any of those fields of study?
At one time, I thought I had experienced ghost activity, but then I decided that those things were alien. Now, I have orbs that I can't just eyes, but when I turn on a video camera that's light, I find orbs in my house and outside, and there were a lot here the day after that night I was here. But I've heard their spirits. I know that they show up at haunted places a lot. And I had 2 kittens. The way I discovered them, I had these 2 kittens, and they were running around like a couple of NASCARs all over the place. They were insane. I thought they were so cute. And I started filming them. Well, I found out a couple of times they were trying to catch an orb. These orbs showed up in the films, and I have these 2 French doors in the room, and sometimes an orb would trace across the framing, the lattice for the glass. It would go up like 3 panes of glass, scoot over, and then go up again, and then it would go through the glass into the other room. So I knew it wasn't a bug, and the cats tried to chase them a couple of times, and when they discovered they couldn't catch them, they just ignored them. Right. But it was really strange to see the cat go after some of them. I had one come. So anyway, that's pretty much my ghost activity is the orbs.
No. Well, how supportive is your family with all the work you do?
Well, my mother and father are both deceased. And my sister and I, we just don't talk about it very much. She's read my book, but that's about it.
Well,
at least she read your book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think my sister would read anything I wrote.
Yeah. Anything that you've read.
I'm tired. I'm not Robin. I corrected myself.
It's poor young. Oh my God. What are we gonna do with it?
So what do you do when you're not so busy?
Well, I work on my house, write music, watch TV. I love TV. I love The Walking Dead. That's my favorite, one of my favorite TV shows, and Taboo, and Ancient Aliens. I have PTSD, which post-traumatic stress disorder, which comes through and affects the adrenal glands and the thyroid gland really strongly. So there'll be some times when I just have no energy whatsoever, and I've been taking vitamins and stuff, and taking raw adrenal, and I'm getting where I can work 5 or 6 hours a day now. So I was getting where I could only work 1 hour a day.
Wow.
But so I stay busy.
You know, when you mentioned walking, I have to tell the story a little bit right here. I won't take that much time. But today I had a doctor's appointment, and they were being assholes to me. And I was I don't know why. I just did one of those moves. I kicked back and I'm like, don't make me get all Negan up in y'all asses, and you wouldn't believe that laugh. I mean, the doctor's office was full, and I'm like, I'm serious. I'm like, people, I'm about to break bad ass up in y'all's ass, and the nurse and them, and the women at the counter were just like, Mr. Shortridge, you need to calm down. I'm like, fuck you, I ain't calming down. I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm like, you all work for me. Don't you be calling me this or this. And I mean, dude, this one lady was standing there, she was in line with me, and she's like, oh my God, that was a perfect Negan moment that I've ever seen in real life.
See what I have to deal with? I have to take him in public. I don't put up with no bullshit. Come on now, what's right's right, wrong's wrong. Now, it was just what it was. They had my dad's information still in their computer, and my dad has been dead for 25 years. And I have, my name and my dad's name are the same name, except I just got a middle name. Dad don't, and it just pissed me off. I'm like, why is his information still in y'all's computer after all these years? And she started getting all smart with me, and that's when I pulled the Negan card on her. Lord have mercy. So, if anyone is interested in finding out more about you or has any questions for you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can contact me on Facebook, and I think it's Byron Lacy 50. But if they look for Byron Lacy, they'll find one of my 2 pages, and they can send me a private message if they need to, or my books and my songs are all on Amazon.com. I've got a science fiction book called Heroes and Villains Down the Halls of Time, The Legends of Spiny Weezer. And I could not come up with a very long title, but I did the best I could do. And I have a book of poetry on there, and I have my book about my experiences at the hands of aliens called Chosen, Chronicles of an Alien Abductee. And then my music site is www.byronlacy.com, all little letters. And it's got 3 or 4 of my songs on it. And also, I believe there's a way to send me a message on there.
All right.
Well, Byron, I appreciate you coming on the show and, talking about this and telling your story and your experiences and your research and stuff and work. And, it takes a lot of courage to be able to talk openly about this, because I know a lot of people, especially in our area, they would never talk about stuff like this, and I commend you for that, and I appreciate you taking out the time to come on and tell us your story, your life, and also I want to let you know that anytime you want to come back on and you want to talk about something that's going on, buddy, the door is always open.
Oh, that sounds great. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, so we're running out of time, and I guess unless you got something else you want to add to it, I guess we'll get ready to tell you have a good night.
All right. Well, you have a good night too, and I enjoy talking with you.
Oh, I enjoy talking.
And I'm sure we'll talk again.
Oh, yes, sir. You have a good night and take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Well, there I go getting all tongue tied again. Jesus
what
Christ.
is wrong with you tonight?
I'm gonna have to quit drinking and try to do the show. That's the problem.
I told you lay off the crack.
I know. I can't help it. I love crack. Well, let me try this again. That's it for us tonight. I want to thank Byron Lacy for coming on the show, and to thank everyone who took the time to listen in. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Vibe Radio Network, also to all the first responders and the men and women in the armed services. Thank you all for your service. Our guest for next Thursday night, March 9th, will be my beautiful oldest daughter, Dakota Shortridge. Dakota is an author. Yay! She's an author and advocate for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. We'll be discussing her first new book on pain through love, which actually has a lot of shit about me in it, and her work as an advocate. So turn in next week to another exciting show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I got to flip this page because I forget. And also I want to remind everyone to go to our Facebook page, Within the Chaos, click it, like it. And, I also have our upcoming guests and past shows also on there. And also you can go to our website at www.blackdiamondps.org, or you can go to blogtalkradio.com/Within the Chaos. Thanks again. Until next week, everyone be safe and good night. Night.
Night, y'all.
Alternative facts.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. At 12:07 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, numerous unidentified objects of unknown intent and unknown origin were detected at high altitudes over multiple locations of Earth's outer space by the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and these objects are presumed to be some form of controlled aircraft. It is not known if more of these aircraft will arrive, or if they will attempt entering Earth's atmosphere. United States citizens are encouraged to monitor local media outlets, as more updates will follow as information becomes available. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. Attacks by the undead have been reported in several states across the country. The dead are rising from their graves and are attacking the human race. At this time, it is expected that more attacks of this nature will occur in several other states in the next few hours. The intent behind their attack is unknown at this time. He has been observed that a bike or exchange of fluids is a method of transmission. This is an extremely dangerous situation if they crave the taste of human flesh. It is not known whether this event will last for hours, days, or even longer. Stay calm, as authorities have been dispatched to deal with these creatures. An all-clear siren will be sounded when this situation is under control.